Hello everyone, my name is Zachary O'Shea and this is Box of Teeth. I wanted to review a couple of plots that you could use for one of the homebrewed antagonists I've been recently talking about, or you might be able to pluck one of these and use them for one of your own villains in your own Dungeons & Dragons game, so stay tuned. Recently I've been talking about the Relict, which is a horror-themed villain that I use for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, but it can be used for any sort of role-playing game setting that you wanted to plug her into. And some of the principles I'm going to talk about here when it comes to designing plots for her as a campaign villain are fairly universal. As a quick reminder, the Relict is kind of based off of a Bride of Frankenstein idea. She is a construct who is a spark of some sort of ancient cosmic horror that has been trapped inside of a soul cage, which is her skeleton made of steel that is then enrobed in waxwork to look like a dainty woman who plays the part of a aggrieved widow who's now come into a lot of money. She is a neutral evil character whose primary concerns are a lavish lifestyle, high societal standing, a great deal of wealth, and also making sure that her machinations always come out in her favor, plus a little tiny kernel of cosmic horror that I'll go over here at the end. So let's review the kind of 4 plot ideas that I use for her. The first of these plots relies heavily on her love of wealth and money. In this scenario, the Relict has been long-lived, and she feels the only true power in the world is wealth. She's watched kingdoms rise and fall in the tides of revolutions, magic run amok, invasions of evil humanoids, inquisitions, and the like. In the end, the only thing that remains is the necessity for trade. With enough capital, one cannot buy what they need. They can take what they want and live in the luxury that she knows she deserves. To that end, the Relic is now planning a soft coup of sort in the kingdom by replacing major merchants and guildmasters with creatures that are loyal to her. This plotline is one of a slow, sinister plan in which the Relic is scheming behind the curtain. This can serve as an easy introduction to the Relic and or her minions before moving on to some of the other plot lines I'm going to talk about. Some of the story prompts that she would use in this sort of avenue is assassinating and replacing several of the guild heads and other important merchants in the area with her own minions, or arranging sort of caravans that will quickly outdo her competition, or making sure the caravans of her competition are destroyed, and even being a patron perhaps to the player characters and other heroes, trying to set them up against evil capitalists for her own gain. The next one is No Honor Among Thieves, where it really hinges on the Relic being already inserted into society and having some of the wealth and power that she thinks she already deserves, but she's grown bored and is looking for a new, harder challenge to fulfill her life, and this comes in now kind of usurping and taking over the local crime in the area. It is a very lucrative trade that goes alongside other sort of trade ventures that she likes, and she would do this by different kind of schemes and getting to learn the ropes when it comes to criminals and building her own cat's paws, which is really important because nothing hurts your society standing like being linked to crime, so she would have to make sure to work through operatives that perhaps don't know who she is. She may also use her seductive capabilities to get in good with the mob or thieves guild or whatever is controlling the family, and again kind of seeming like a dainty and easily controlled woman when she learns how to pull the strings, and she can even just initiate an all-out turf war using herself or her minions and pitting the different organizations against one another before taking over whatever is left. This rolls into the idea of war is good for business, which is, I think, one of the rules of acquisition, which is also another one is peace is good for business. Bit of a nerd, but that's to be expected. And in this sort of scenario, again, she's wealthy, but she wants to make more money, so she does her best to propagate a war. This could easily be accomplished by using false flags, such as paying mercenaries to pretend to be various forces and get them to fight one another. It can also be an arms race where she starts offering different magical abilities and magical weapons and artillery and that sort of stuff, depending on the time era you're working in, to various sides of a conflict, selling to both sides to try to get them to also fight with one another. It can also involve her figuring out how to insert herself, or more than likely her minions, with local evil humanoids or foreign nations, and kind of stirring up ferment and racial hatred and the like if you want to use that as a tact in one of your games. The final one doesn't really have to deal with any of the wealth or society or just her urge to earn and control more. and that is The Last Spark. This is a cosmic horror scenario because the Relict is not just a construct that is literally heartless and wants to gain and gather more power and wealth. She also, in the middle, has a spark of something ancient, forgotten, and terrible. This could be something as part of a sundered god that was made from before creation of the plane. It could be the sliver of an ancient slumbering elder evil that was plucked away when she was made. It could be the essence of some ancient planar wizard who was reduced down to energy and then trapped within her that now wants to be free. There's a lot of different ways that you can go with this, but they all would use some of the similar story prompts. Now, of course, you could grab one from the previous 3 entries to make it nice and mundane, but throw in things like dire portents. Maybe there's an omen about a wax seal being torn open, and with it comes the end of the world. Maybe there are some strange things that are appearing in the smoke of candles. Maybe there's something about things that are born from women who never lived. These sort of prophecies start to make their way to the Relict, and she realizes they are about her. She has this natural curiosity to discover where she comes from, so she starts investigating them and opening up to more and more horrors. Likewise, she is a soul cage with a fragment of something ancient within her, some sort of ancient magic. And that means there's probably other artifacts out there that might represent to it. Something left beyond from eons forgotten, maybe other fragments of that elder evil, maybe other pieces of metal that are like the stuff that her skeleton is made out of, that's trapping different souls or has other powers, that now she is using the considerable resources and minions she has to start grabbing up, just out of a kindred for them. Maybe she doesn't even realize what she's doing. She just is like, I want that art piece, and I don't know why, but I need it. And then that starts down the road to damnation, as it were. There's a lot of different ways you can go with that to kind of slowly build up the cosmic horror. So while your players are dealing with someone they think is all about avarice and getting as much wealth and power as they want, it slowly becomes apparent that there's something more awful that she can burst and bloom into if they don't stop her. Now, I hope these give you a couple of ideas, not just for the Relic, but for your own villains when it comes to thinking about what do they want, what sort of goals do they have, how can you align a lot of different plots off of that, and how can you take a hard left turn as needed to fulfill kind of a different kind of horror story and seed it along, which are the different examples that I've gone through. You can find the Relic, several of her minions, and hundreds of other horror-based creatures for Dungeons & Dragons, all perfectly free, at boxofteeth.blogspot.com. If you're more interested in the non-Dungeons & Dragons content that I have, or the horror fiction that I write that includes grease paint right there, it's got a killer clown, you can always go to www.zacharyoshay.com. Have a great day.